Never save your money. Sounds crazy, right? We've been told since we were kids to save every penny. But my grandfather taught me a lesson that flipped my entire world upside down. I didn't believe him at first, but after seeing how his life savings, money he literally broke his back for, ended up being worthless, I finally got it. How did a few simple chickens change our family's life while a jar full of cash failed? Is saving actually keeping you safe, or is it an invisible trap? This story is going to break everything you thought you knew about money. Our story starts years ago in a quiet rural town. Back then, everyone thought my grandfather, Joe, was lazy. He didn't have a regular job. He'd just sit on the porch for hours staring out at the fields. He had these big dreams. He'd say, "One day I'm going to own a big store, have acres of land and plenty of cattle. I'm going to be wealthy without killing myself with labor." People laughed. Days turned into years, but Grandpa's one day never came. My grandma used to sigh and say, "Dreams don't put food on the table, Joe. You have to work." He'd just shrug and say, "When the time is right, the path will show itself." But time doesn't wait for anyone. As he got older, things got desperate. The roof leaked and the cupboards were bare. I remember one night when I was a little kid, I went to him and said, "Grandpa, I'm hungry. Is there any bread left?" Grandma just opened the empty pantry without saying a word. I saw his face fall. He realized his ideas weren't feeding his family. He didn't sleep that night. The shame was eating him alive. The next morning, he dragged himself out of bed and took a job as a day laborer at a nearby farm. It was brutal. He worked under the scorching sun until his skin was burnt and his back was locked in pain. At the end of the day, he'd get a small handful of cash, but most of it went straight to old debts, grandma's medicine, or just one basic meal. He'd look at the blisters on his hands and mutter, "Is this life just a set of chains?" Then one day, he overheard some guys talking at the local general store. One of them said, "Savings are everything. The man with the most cash in the bank is the one who sleeps easy." That stuck in his head. He thought, maybe that's my mistake. I'm not saving. That night, he found an old glass mason jar and hid it under the floorboards. He made a vow. No matter how much it hurt, he would put a few coins in that jar every single week. And man, did he suffer for it. He wouldn't even buy a new pair of boots. He just duct taped the old ones. We ate less. When Grandma complained, he'd say, "We're sacrificing now so our future is safe." She'd look at him and ask, "What good is a future if we're starving today?" But he wouldn't budge. Months turned into years. The jar got heavy. Whenever he heard the clink of those coins, he'd get this proud smile. He really thought that jar was going to make him a king. Finally, the jar was full. Grandpa decided it was time to make his move. He wanted to buy 3 large sacks of grain to start a small trading business. He was so excited. We went to the market and he walked up to the biggest grain wholesaler in town. He slammed that jar of coins on the counter and said, "Give me 3 sacks of your best grain." The merchant counted the money, then looked at my grandpa with this look of pure pity. He shook his head and said, "Joe, you're too late. Prices have doubled. All this money you've been hoarding, it'll only buy you a sack and a half now." I watched the color drain from Grandpa's face. The money he had starved himself for, the money he had bled for over the years, it had lost its power. He just stood there in the middle of the market shaking. All that hard work felt like it was for nothing. The walk home was silent. That glass jar felt 100 times heavier before. That night, he poured the coins out on the table. The number of coins hadn't changed, but what they could do had vanished. I asked him, "Grandpa, is saving money useless?" He looked at me for a long time, his eyes watery. He finally realized, it's not enough to just have money. You have to make it move. The next morning, he took what was left and went back to the market. But he didn't buy grain or bread. He came home with a few small crates of baby chicks. I was confused. "You spent the last of the money on these tiny birds?" He smiled, but this time it was different. It was a confident smile. He said, "These birds aren't just going to sit there, kid. They're going to give me eggs." And that's exactly what happened. The chicks grew. They started laying eggs. We ate some, but we sold the rest. With that egg money, Grandpa bought more chicks. Soon, our backyard was full of life. The neighbors started coming to us for their groceries. Grandpa didn't need that heavy glass jar anymore.
We had food on the table, and we didn't have to worry about medicine. One afternoon, Grandpa sat me down with an egg in his hand. He said, "Look at this. The value of this egg doesn't just disappear with time. It feeds me, or I sell it for what it's worth today, or it hatches into a new chicken. It's not static like money in a jar. It grows. Money in a jar just gathers dust, but money put to work creates wealth." That was the biggest lesson of my life. He told me, saving money is like trying to hold water in your hands. Eventually, it's going to slip through your fingers. But if you use that water to plant a tree, that tree will feed you for the rest of your life. So, don't just save, invest. Wealth only grows when it's moving. My lazy grandfather wasn't lazy anymore. He didn't just have dreams, he had a path. Today, he's the person everyone in town goes to for advice. While everyone else is chasing a savings account balance, he's showing them how to build something real. If this story hit home for you, or if you think someone else needs to hear this lesson, feel free to share it. And if you want to join our community and learn more about these life lessons, we'd love to have you. Knowledge is the only thing that grows the more you share it. Stay smart and don't let your hard-earned money sit idle. Put it to work.